And saying that, once again, we will welcome John Storman, our instructor for the Introductory Coding class. And today's topic is Python. We do like Python very much. And today we will demo many things, but we do want you to be aware that Newburgh Free Library is our sponsor and happy to help our patrons to succeed in career shift, career switch, and whatever you need in terms of technology. We're working toward having more free programs available for you for your career change and just advancement, all kind.
Cool. Okay, so here we go.
This is yours.
We're going to be using, let me share my screen and so I can demonstrate some things. Where are we? We're sharing my screen. And I'm sharing this screen. So you should see we're going to use something called Trinket. We may also use something called Replit. This is Replit. We'll see how Trinket goes. Trinket is a very nice interface, and you can get to it from trinket.io on a web page. And so when I create in Trinket, and I'm logged in with my own account, and I can go here and I'm going to create a new Trinket. And my new Trinket, I'm going to create it in Python. I'm just going to choose Python, and there we go. And so here is a blank page. Notice that it says main.py. .py is a Python extension. And I'll just do when you're learning a new language, it's always useful to just get started with it. And the standard thing to start with is hello world. Get your program to say hello world. Sorry about the dog. So you can actually see the code down here where it says first time, try printing hello world. So there's a command, a function called print, which is what we're going to use. And whenever you have a function, you always have to pass in an argument of some sort. And so print takes the argument of a string. And a string is just a set of characters. And we denote a string by surrounding it with quotes. So if I just type hello world, and so there's my thing. And when I want to run it, I can press this run button and it will show up on the right. And so here it is. Here's the output, hello world, just as I put it. I could change this to be hello mom. And when we run it again, it changes. So right away, we have a lot of leeway. And we have a lot of things that we can do just to change it with a single command. Now, Python has some basic building blocks, like all languages do. And so I've already shown you a function. And if print is a function, a built-in function, as you learn more, you can actually create your own functions that would operate the same way. It would, not that I have this here, but my function, and if I passed in whatever it's looking for, so maybe it's a number. If I was to run this, I would have some code behind it that would do something with that number. I'm getting ahead of myself, so we're not going to do that, and I don't have my function ready to go. But we wanted to talk about a few different things. So you can see I'm doing hello mom. I could do 1 + 2. Let's see if that'll work. No, it won't. Okay, so I could do print 1 + 2. And when I run that, I'm going to get, here's my 3. And what's happened is that inside here, let me see if I can change. If I can, there we go, that's bigger. So by just, so I've got this function print, and then I'm putting an equation or something inside this. We can do, 20 + 30 and get that result. So right away, Python could be a calculator. Okay. Again, we're doing all this in Trinket, which allows us to work dynamically. And the other thing is that I could do is I could set this up for you to be able to code with me. But let's not do that right now. But feel free to play with this as we on your own as we go through this.
For Trinket specifically, you would need to create an account.
Mm-hmm.
And Trinket, why we like Trinket or things like that, is because it's providing you the cloud code editing opportunities without installing any IDE, it's called.
Yes, an IDE is called an integrated development environment. And so if you were going to get serious about working in Python, I would recommend eventually moving off of an online interface like Trinket or Replit and move into something that you can download locally on your computer. That's a lot more involved. You have to install Python, you have to install the application. It's not awful, but there's a little more to it than what we're going to get to in here. So in Python, there are different kinds of data types. So we've looked at what this here, which is a string, which is a collection of characters. Now, you know, this is all letters and there's an exclamation point. Well, we could have numbers in there as well. I could do this, hello mom, 1, 2, 3. It's still gonna be, and here's the result over here. It's still gonna be a string as opposed to what's called an int or a whole number. And so if I do this and I can print 1, 2, 3, notice it's not in quotes, and that it, you know, when it is in quotes, it shows up in red. Now this is in blue, which shows us as an int or an integer. And so again, it's going to show up that way. And Python, you know, each function knows how to deal with strings versus numbers. The other kind of number that we can look at is what's called a float, which is a decimal place. And again, there's not much difference except that things you can do with a string, you can't do with a number and vice versa. Okay, so for instance, well, I'll skip that for now. So we're, one thing we can do with a string, well, what I wanted to demonstrate is some of the dynamics that we could do. So instead of hello mom, I'm going to just delete this. I'm going to import a library. Don't worry about the library, but we're going to use that. So if I go print, oh, I'm sorry. I'm now going to, so one of the things that's really great about Python is a structure called a list. And this is a collection of items. And that's denoted by a square bracket. Don't worry about that. But I could say, I'm going to make a variable, whom, and this is going to be the collection of who we're going to say hello to. So let's put in world. And again, these are strings, right? And you can tell by the quotes. Let's say mom. And again, there's, you know, with these, I could put as many things as I want in here. Whoops. I could put as many things as I want in here. World, mom, dad, New York. So now, if I do that same kind of thing, and I could do this, I could go then print, and we want that hello. And because the way print works, it will take more arguments or more things, and I separate them by commas. So then I could say, and don't worry about this syntax, but I'm actually going to choose something called random.choice. And because I imported random, which is another library on line 1, inside that library is a function called choice, which will go through a particular list, and whom is a list. And then when I run this, it says, hello, New York. And if I run it again, well, it's grabbing from this list. Hello, Dad. Hello, Mom. And it's just randomly choosing one of these values. So, already, just with one little function, actually, we're using two little functions, right? We've got print and we've got choice in the random library. I'm able to already do something more than just print out a string.
So the beauty of coding in simplifying things. So that's what we are introducing you today to.
Yeah.
Like functions and what you can do with the specific coding language. In each language, you have a syntax to learn. And what we are doing in between lines, we are teaching you the syntax while providing the platform where you can practice and see immediate results. So that's what you have on your left, your coding, and on your right, you see immediate results, how it works. So we're creating specific cases where we show how coding can be useful when you need to pick something random from the list. Right? That's why the library was needed, which is doing this function for you. And you have to call it. Hey, function, come help us, right?
There are lots and lots of libraries. We're not going to get into that tonight. But what we will look at, let's go through a little program that a friend of ours wrote. This is a KnockKnock program. Okay. Oops, that's not it. Hang on a second. Sorry. Here, KnockKnock. And I'll just run this so you get a sense of how it works. And then let's go through it and see what's going on. So you can see, hello, I'm the one, the only KnockKnock chatbot. I love knock-knock jokes. I can tell you a knock-knock joke, or you can tell me a knock-knock joke. If I drive you nuts, then just say uncle, but you better spell it right. So let's just run through it quickly. You choose who tells this time. It's me. I'm going to tell the joke. And so I go knock, knock, and I'm just typing, and I hit enter. The computer knows, oh, who's there? I'm going to say, what am I going to say? Orange, and this is a silly joke. Orange who? And I go, orange, you glad I didn't say banana? Okay, and so, and then it just goes back to the beginning. So there's this just give and take. So I wanted to show you how it works, but let's look at it. So the first thing is, this program imports random as well. Then there's a list, and it says answer set 1, and it creates this list of responses. And there they are. Now, the other thing that the person who wrote this with is she used what's called a comment. And so anywhere you see a hashtag like that, it's everything after the hashtag is not read by the compiler or the interpreter. Okay, and so if we look at answer 1 is equal to random.choice answer set. Answer set is this list, and we know it's a list because of the square bracket. And, we don't need to see the whole thing. On line 6, it's question 2, which is another variable. So a variable is basically just a basket to hold a value.
A container.
A container. Right. So there's some rules about how it has to be named, but they're very loose. It has to start with a letter or an underscore, and it can contain letters or numbers. But it couldn't be to question. That wouldn't be a valid name. Otherwise, anything goes. And so what we're doing in this line, we're using a function called input. which allows us to read in whatever was written. So when I wrote me, here, that was taken as input, and then the program responded appropriately. Okay, so if we go back to the code, I'm sorry this is jumping around so much.
Maybe this code is too sophisticated for the beginning. How the crowd does feel about it? This is the real chatbot. So there is a scenario how this chatbot shall behave, right?
Right. And what I like about this, though, Yulia, is that it does lay out the very basics. So there's an if, and you can imagine what an if would be. We don't have to go into all of that. But it's just saying that if question 2, and question 2 is whatever comes out of answer 1 when I type something. Yeah. So whatever the user types gets stored in question 2 and then manipulated a little bit. And so,
does it make sense? How for newbies? How does it sound for newbies? Too complicated?
Anybody? I think they're paying attention. I think we're okay.
It's a little complicated.
It's a little complicated, but if you let's take a step back. Let's do this. If we were going to write this program, I'm just going to drag just a text, this is just a text editor. And so if we were to write out the steps, and so we're going to say introduce the game, right? Oh, you know what? Sorry, I have another one which might work better for us. It's Hangman. It works similar, but you can see that, and here it is. We're importing some things. There's a list. But if you think about what a computer program is, sorry about the noise. A computer program is a series of instructions. And we deal with a particular language to provide those instructions in a particular way. Every language has its own nuances and ways to provide those instructions, but when it comes down to it, the instructions are the same. So if I bring in this just this blank page, how do you play Hangman? So we'll introduce the game. We need a list of words. Right? We're going to pick a word. Whoops. We're going to pick a word from the list. And then we're going to check, we're going to invite the player to guess a letter. If the letter is in the word, display where it shows up, right? Has anyone not played Hangman before? If the letter is not in the word, draw a part of the hangman. That's how the game works, right? And we do
Are those instructions clear? These are instructions for computer. Now we just need to replicate those instructions in code.
So what we do, and we do this until the limit of guesses is reached.
So those instructions are like human instructions.
That's exactly right.
We're humans explaining computer how do we want it to happen.
Right. So if I, here, let's do it this way. Sorry.
So saying that a few words what library is.
Okay. Sorry, Yulia, what did you say?
A few words. What's the library? Why we are importing
Why
the
do
library?
why do we import time, import random? Because
Those are libraries.
those are libraries. We do not want to have to solve every problem ourselves. We don't need to write the code. If someone has already done it, let's use what they do. I teach this project development class. So students are actually writing software from scratch, creating a full program. I urge them to use code that's already out on the web. And there's a lot of places that you can get code that's already written that you don't have to write. And all you need to do is import it, and it will provide that functionality for you.
But saying that, it means this code is known by the platform, so the platform can recognize this code, right? That's the beauty of
it's all in Python.
Yes. And if so, this code would be executed no matter what.
That's right. So let me just run this so you just get a sense of what this looks like. Let's play Hangman. Let's play Hangman. By the way, each equals represents the number of letters in the secret word. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. I'll guess a letter, and I'll guess a T, just because I don't know what the word is. And what happened? And so there is a T in it, so we're good. So let's say, how about an A? I guess an A. This is too small, too big. I'm so sorry. Okay. The A is not in the secret word. Try again. And then it drew this little thing. This is the beginning of the gallows. I've got 6 more guesses. I'll try an E. No E. Well, so now it's getting a little worse, right? How about a P? And so that didn't happen. A U. What happened? Something happened. Let me try this one more time. So I just started it again. I've got a 4-letter word. We'll start with an E. Not in the word. Let's do an H. Not in the word. I'm going to do a T. Did I do a T already? No. T. There's no T. All right, I'm going to do an F. No F. I've got 3 more guesses. How about an S? There's 2 S's. How about an A? There's no A. How about an I? How about an H? J. All right, so I ran out of guesses, and my Hangman got written. So this is just a graphic, and I ran out of tunes. So let's look and see how this actually works. And we're still going through this list of steps over here, but let's look at this. So we have the print command. Let's play Hangman, and we saw that, right? Let's play Hangman, and then there's all this other stuff. All that's done by a print. There's time sleep. That doesn't mean very much. It just pauses. But there's a lot of just printing. We create a list of words, and we import a file. And the file is here. Here's the file of words. It's just a file of words. There are 1,000 words. Okay? And there are these kinds of files out there. And so all that we've done is we've created that. So that's, we've introduced the game. That's line 1. Here we need a list of words. We have that. And then we pick a word from the list. And that's in here. Here, word is equal to random choice word list. So it goes through the word list and picks a word. And then the computer says start guessing, and that's here, this print. And when you have an empty print, it just makes an empty line, which is useful for, so that it shows up nicely. It's all just about formatting and making it look nice. Here is where we know that there's 7 turns, because we just created a variable called turns and gave it a value of 7. And then we use what's called a while loop. And the while loop will do all this code, everything under the while loop. Let's see where it ends. The while loop ends, it actually just keeps going.
So the loop, this is another computer science term. Why do we need the loop? When do we need the loop?
It's a good question. And the reason we use a loop is so that we can repeat the same steps over and over again. And so the steps
should be conditional, I guess, right?
Yes, and that's the while. So as long as turns is greater than 0, the loop will continue. And so in order not to have an endless loop, of course, we have to change the value of turns. So we started at 7, and as long as it's more than 7, we're doing it. So just going here. So here on this line 88, we're decrementing turns. So every time that it gets to this line, the value of turns drops by 1. And that's what this minus equals means.
So saying that, this loop is doing what?
So we'll start at the top and look, and it says for every character in the word, if the character is in guesses, we're going to print it. Otherwise, and that's the else, we're going to then print an equals, which is that we see here. Whoops. Which is what we see here. So, the word was probably miss. It says it somewhere. Yeah, the word was miss. So because I didn't type an N, that stays as an equals, and that's what this line does. I'm sorry, I keep jumping around. So if when we get to 0, it says, congratulations, you guessed the word.
So and it guessed all letters.
Whatever this is. I'm sorry, Yulia, what did you say?
You guessed all letters right.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So, and then this keyword break takes you out of the loop. You don't have to, the way I want you to look at this is not that, oh, I'm learning Python here, as much as I want you to understand how the commands work. You don't need to know the specific commands. We'll talk about ways to learn the specific commands shortly. But if we go back to what I'll call pseudocode, which is introduce the game, need a list of words, pick a word from the list, invite the player to guess a letter. If the letter is in the word, display where it shows up. And all that we saw here. If it's not in the word, draw part of the hangman. So where did the hangman come from? Well, at the very top of the file, there was that collection. And these characters here are the hangman. And they're actually in order. So, as you draw it, this is the first one, and then comes this one, and it's everything between the quotes. And you can just see that they go. It's not a perfect thing, but they work out. It works out kind of nicely. The thing to get here is that there are, that by putting together these building blocks, which is a list, we're pulling an item out of the list, we're printing different things, we're pausing, and the time.sleep is a pause, and again, we're just providing instructions to the computer. Now, Python is what's called an interpreted language. In other words, the interpreter, which is basically another little program, reads through this line by line. And when it sees the line 8, print, let's play Hangman, well, that's what's actually going to happen. And one of the nice things about Python is that it's really written in an easy to read format, that the words actually mean something. If you look at some older languages, Java or C, C++, those kinds of things, they're a lot more obtuse, if you will. It's just harder to understand what's going on. The other piece about Python that's really great is that there's no character that needs to be at the end of the line. In JavaScript or Java or C++ or C, you need to put a semicolon or a period or something else at the end of the line to indicate that the line ends. The way Python works is it uses white space. And so every time that you start a new line, the computer, the interpreter knows that it's a new command. There are exceptions to that, of course, but in general. They also use things like indentation. So here we have a while loop. I know that the while loop includes all this stuff, 48, all the way down to the bottom, because it's all indented. And you can see these little, I don't know if you can see it, but there are these lines that show up, these vertical lines that show the indentation. So for example, on line 94, there's a for loop. And basically it says for every item that's in Gallows, which is a list, print X. So for every X in Gallows, print it. So print 1. Just these 2 lines, and you know that the for loop only includes this print X because of the indent. And that's where the Gallows gets printed, because it just goes through that list and says, okay, where are we? And the turns, minus turns, means start at the back, based on how many guesses we've done, how many wrong guesses we've done. So there's a lot to it, but it's all small building blocks that you can put together. If you've played with Legos, it's a good way to think about it. You have different colored building blocks, different shapes, and you can use them to build a building or a car or all sorts of things that you can do with Legos. Python, because it's a computer language, it gives us a lot more opportunity to create different things. And so, this KnockKnock chatbot and Hangman are 2 ways that we can do that.
Both do represent games. So the goal was just to show you a few games. One is Chatbot, and another one is just the Hangman. So you can see it can be graphical enough just to play it.
Yeah. And so, again, we're using something called Trinket. Let me just quickly show you this thing called Replit. Here's the same thing in Replit. Let me just clear this, and I could run it again. It is going to be the same kind of thing. Replit is a little better for some things. It's a little worse than others. Just so you know, it doesn't matter very much. And it's useful to jump around and try different ones until you find the one that you like.
So if you will enroll into the Trinket or Replit, there are a lot of already existing projects there which you can just explore and go and explore. And the beauty of it, you can remix them. It means you can make a copy, and start editing them, start seeing what the results are if you will be like tweaking code by code or line by line of code.
So, for instance, this click to edit, this little spaceship thing is one of those that I could play with. I haven't. It's called the Turtle in Space, and it uses a bunch of things, and we could, so I could immediately change the move speed and the turn speed. Let me just run this and see what it looks like. So there it is. What does it do? So if I use my keyboard and I just press the up key, it moves me forward. If I press my right key, it turns the spaceship. If I use my left key, it turns the other way. I can go backwards, I can go forwards using my arrow keys. And we see that, the reason I know that is because it says down here, screen.on key, forward is up, backwards is down, and these are the commands. We don't need to know all the commands. You just need to know that, if I wanted to change it. So maybe I don't want the move speed to be 10, I want it to be 30. And I'll change my turn speed to be 5. And I'll run this again. And so there it is. So now, as I turn, you can see the turning is much slower, where if I'm going fast, it moves much faster. And that's just because I changed those two parameters. So one of the nice things about this, as Yulia said, is that you can muck around with them. Okay, I know we only have an hour, and I've got about 15 minutes left. And what I'd like to do, let me just close this. I wanted to talk a little bit about resources that you can have, resources that you can access so that you can actually start learning this program, learning this language if you'd like. And there's some really nice books out there. Some are free, some are you have to pay for, but none of it is hard. And so I've got a sort of a pile of books here, and I'll go through them. Maybe you'll type them out into the chat, Yulia?
Yes.
So the first one is this. It's automating the boring stuff with Python. And it's by a guy named Al Swigert. We like this book a lot. It just, it takes you, the first few chapters take you through the basics of the programming language. And then later on, there's like the second 2/3 of the book are little projects that you can do and try out using those basic building blocks. Learning a language takes practice, and any kind of language, spoken or written, you have to talk in it. If you want to learn French, you need to speak French. You need to speak French, and it's nice with French people, but you don't have to. If you go to a French class, you'll sit with other people that speak French just as badly as you do, and you can converse. And the more you speak it, the better you get, the more ease you have, etc. And so that's any of the books I talk about will have it. So anyway, this is the first book. We like this one a lot. We actually have used this for other classes just like this. The other thing about this book, as Yulia said, there's a website, and this automatetheboringstuff.com has the entire contents of the book. There it is. So you don't even have to buy it. Let's see. They can get more complicated. This is a book called Head First Python. I like this book a lot because it's got fun exercises in it. It takes you through, of course, it will take you through the basics, but it will also, this is an O'Reilly book. You can see here, it's an O'Reilly imprint called Head First. And is this backwards, Yulia? On my screen, it's reversed.
No, it's good.
Okay, good. Okay, great. O'Reilly has a whole series of Head First books. And they have funny pictures and interesting pencil puzzles and all sorts of stuff. And the idea of these books is that you use both your left and your right brain to learn things. And so I like this book a lot. And the one, actually, this is a first edition, but there's a second edition, which is even better. Python as a language has changed. It was version 2, now we're in version 3.9. And so there are some real differences. The differences are don't really pertain to what we're doing today. Online, there are some books. Let's see. Where are they? Bear with me. There's a book called The Bite of Python. There's a book called ThinkPython. There's a website for this, and you can get that. That's a great book. And also Bite of Python. Bear with me one second. I don't have the cover to this. I'm so sorry. Do I? No, I don't have the cover to Bite of Python, which is what I was looking for. The copy I have, it's a PDF version. It starts with the table of contents, so I can't do much about that.
But maybe you can just provide the link to PDF if you have it free.
Yeah. Yes. Give me just a minute, and I can put that together. Well, actually, you know what we'll do is we will email you the list of these resources. Does that work, Yulia? We have all the email addresses, yes?
Yes.
Great. So I will put together a nice resource list for you of where you can find these books and where you can download them.
So for your reference, just no rush, but what we can do today, we introduce you how it looks like. It's scary, intimidating first, but we are going through some syntax of the language, and we are providing you the environment where you can practice as a sandbox. We're providing you resources, and we're talking through the computer science concepts which are used for programming. You have to know at least 4 of them. Right? Those are variables. We talked a little bit about variables. You have to think about conditionals. What conditionals are? It's
an if this matches that, or if this doesn't match that, or some other kind of conditional. And then you also need to know about data types. And we've talked about strings and ints and floats. There are more data types like Booleans, as in true or false, because that's an important thing. If something matches something else, the result is true. And so you go, if this and this is true, well, then move on from there. And, we saw that with Hangman. If I put in the right letter, then we do some things. If I didn't put in the right letter, then we do some other things. And those are all based on conditionals, yeah.
We saw this with the KnockKnock joke making as well, who is telling the joke, you and me, you're me. And you see, each time you're choosing something or you're comparing something, that's where the conditionals are needed. Right. Think about it this way. If it's rain, I'm taking an umbrella. If it's sun shining, so I'm just taking my sun shoes or something like that, right? These are conditionals. So we were talking about variables, conditionals, and loops. Loops. It's until something happens and while this is happening, or for as many times as needed, like for 8 times do this and then do something else.
Right. Or for every item in this list, we want to do something. And so that's, we're automating, programming is all about automation. It's all about repeating things over and over again, but in terms of compartmentalization. And so when we talked about functions, we're talking about taking a whole bunch of behavior and encapsulating it into just a single command. If I want, print is a function, and print is very well written. Whatever you pass into print, it will print it properly, whether it's a number, whether it's an equation, whether it's a sentence. And because of the way computers work, all those things are slightly different. It looks pretty straightforward, but if you look at the underlying code, it's very complicated. But we don't have to worry about that because all we have to do is type print and we get that functionality. Python gives you the opportunity to create your own functions as well.
This is another computer science concept, really important function. You can create function.
So that we can create some automation to repeat the tasks that we want to do.
And that's how you automate your boring stuff. I don't want to do it. So please, in each case, when you see these, do that. And here your automated custom function.
Yeah. I told you I teach a computer science course at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and I had a problem. I had 100 students, and I wanted to give each one of them all their grades based on all the assignments. And, you know, there's 20 assignments and 100 students. I could have typed it all out into an email into each student. Instead, I wrote a little Python program that just extracted the information and mailed it to each student.
How many hours did you save?
Well, it took me probably 2 hours to write the program, and then it took 3 minutes to run it. And I never have to write it again. All I have to do is 3 minutes and I can do it.
Thank you for your comment. It sounds similar to functions in Excel. Absolutely, yes.
It is, yes.
It is the concept.
Yeah, and the idea of a function in Excel is the same thing. And that there's built-in functions, and then you can create your own macros in Excel that will do some things for you.
Saving you time. But first you have to learn Excel. First you have to learn syntax, right? So same true about Python. The beauty of Python is, first thing first, it's open source. So you're not paying for it, and it's developed by communities, growing and just getting better and better with each version. Second thing with the Python, it's very human eye like ready. You can read it as a book. As soon as your eye will be used to it, you will see print, input. You will be able to see variables like in 2 seconds. You just need to get used to, and you need some practice.
That's
and
right.
You will see how to use it. Also, the beauty of Python is it's kind of telling you what belongs to what by indentation. And the indentation. And can you show your screen once again, John, please?
Sure.
Because the beauty of all kind of code editors is laying in color tips, I would say. You see how colorful this code. So you can easily say what is what. As soon as you will learn what's gray, what's green, what's red stands for.
Yeah. Let me just see. So for instance, the word else, if, else, def, import, these are keywords. In other words, you can't use them except for what they're for in Python. So you can't have a variable called def. It's a command, and that's why it's in red. We can see that when we create a string, that's in red. And that's just this interpreter that does that. Comments are in green. Equals, which is called an operator, and all the operators are in red. So everything that we need to, that we can easily look at this syntax and go, aha, this is the stuff I need to know. You know, so here's a print. Well, print's a keyword, and then all of this is what gets printed, and that's in red as well.
It's a little bit different, some like a little bit lilac and red, so you can see the difference.
Yes, that's right, it is. When you get into integrated development environments, you can actually modify the color scheme that you'd like. I mean, it's just one of the goodies that allows you to do it. Again, that's much further than, much more detailed than what we want to get to in this.
Do you have any IDE ready to show?
I do have. I can show you quickly. I can show you an IDE.
IDE are usually language specific, or some IDEs can serve couple languages. It looks a little bit more hackerish, hacker specific, or not so easy to read.
So what we're looking at here is, this is called PyCharm. You can see this, yeah? This is that same program. This is the KnockKnock program in PyCharm. And you can see that the keywords are in orange, the functions are in yellow, the strings are in green, and then all the white is just stuff that we're writing. I guess this built-in function print is in purple. It's hard to tell. But, you know, having that color differentiation really helps.
So let's have a break for the questions. And just let's talk a little bit about it. What's your experience so far? And we will go from there because we can show you a lot. And now we're transitioning into Q&A.
Yeah, so I'd like to hear what, yes, please, tell us your questions and what more you'd like to know about this just as an introduction. You can either unmute yourself and yell out, or you can also type it in the chat.
Could you talk a little bit about what Python is best, why Python compared to other languages, where its strength is?
Yeah, so first of all, there's sort of a redundancy in that it's really strong because it's really strong. I know that seems funny, but because Python's gotten very popular, because I think it's easier to learn than other languages because of the common language usage. You know, that you can actually read the code and understand what's going on, whether you speak the language or not. You know, you have to speak English, but if you speak English, you can really understand what's going on. That's one piece. Secondly, the other thing is that it's popular. So there are a lot of people that are using it, which means that there's a lot of libraries available. I mentioned this, that, you know, most of it is, most libraries are free open source. So if you need, you know, you decide, okay, I'm going to do something, and was it Spencer who was talking about microcontrollers?
Yeah, that was me.
Right. So, you know, if you want to deal with a microcontroller, well, there's a library for that. It's not, you know, you'll have to learn how to use the library, but that's not awful. If you have a good idea about Python, then using the library is not hard. And I just want to jump over to what Yuan once said, you know, that you have to memorize the commands. You don't have to memorize the commands. You have to memorize some of them, but they're really, it's not it's not hard to memorize.
Mnemonic, very intuitive, very logical and such. You're learning basic commands, and if you are facing the use case when you need something specific, you just Google it and you find another function, or you read the documentation and you find another command you might need. Libraries,
which also goes, that just also is why that the language is so popular, because it's easy to learn, because there's a lot of information. I mean, I've been playing with Python for several years. I'm not an expert on this at all. However, I can figure things out because I understand how the language works, and I know how to use Google. You know, all the time I'm looking. Okay, well, there's a command for that. What is it? And you can put anything in there into a query, a web search, and you'll find information. There's a website called python.org. Whoops, I spelled it wrong. Python.org, that has a huge amount of information. You know, it documents the entire language. So all the built-in commands and functions, and there's lists of libraries, and there's forums to talk to, and all that. All that's just right in python.org. However, there's lots and lots of other resources like that as well. W3 Schools is a place I go to for actually HTML and CSS, but they do Python as well. And so there's just a lot of resources out there that that allow you to learn what you need to learn, and you'll never learn the entire language. I mean, you could, if you know, ultimately as a professional developer, you'll be familiar with a lot of it. But the goal is not necessarily to memorize everything, but just know, oh, I can do that. Let me figure out how. I don't know German very well, but German is a language that's built of, you know, in German, there's a lot of very long words because they're built of a lot of small words. I'm already in deep water here. I don't know German, but the idea is that if you have the basic building blocks, it's pretty easy to learn how to put them together to make what it is you want to do. And the language really lends itself to it, and it's very, very versatile that way. Now, some of the real strengths that Python provides is dealing with text better than most languages in terms of formatting text, in terms of writing out things. You know, I told you about this little program I wrote. Well, I had it write out a whole lot of HTML so that when students got their grades, it was laid out nicely. And it was just a bunch of print commands. Another thing is that Python's really good for data analysis. And there's one library that really stands out, but there's a lot of others. And the library is called Pandas. And, you know, so if you're going to get into data analysis, you're going to learn Pandas. And there's a lot of numerical. There's a library that handles numbers and does a lot of great number operations for you called NumPy. There's geographical data libraries. There's libraries that handle, I don't know, I mean, you know, there's lots and lots of stuff out there. I found a library that will make, what's it called, a word cloud. You know, you give it a bunch of words, it'll make a word cloud. And, you know, you can give it as many words as you want. So I took the text of Alice in Wonderland. I found a text version of Alice in Wonderland and ran it through this and made a word cloud of Alice in Wonderland. You know, there's lots and lots of things like that you can do, which really provides the strength of the language.
So saying that Python is really useful for any industry vertical or for many, many use cases. That's why it's getting so popular. Yeah. And the beauty of open source is as soon as people see the need, they just go and develop functions or libraries and they put it out there for the common use.
Yeah, yeah.
So Python is really used for scraping the web and comparing data and just to do the dirty work when needed, automate by sending emails, comparing results and such.
Yeah, I found a library that sends email. I needed to send an email. There's a library for that. I found it. There's, you know, I needed to learn 3 commands out of that library to do what I needed to do. And very, you know, most tasks that you want to do are very simple to do that way. The trick is to just get used to the syntax, to, you know, assign values to variables. And we talked about variables being containers for a value. What's nice in Python compared to other languages is that you can have a variable, we'll call it Fred. Fred can contain a string, and then you can change it so that Fred now contains a number. And in other languages, you can't do that necessarily. It's not as versatile. You have to declare a variable as a particular data type, assign a value of that data type to that variable, and then you can't use that variable for any other kind of data type. You know, there's those kinds of constraints that Python just doesn't have. Like that. So let me hear some more questions that you may have. No more questions?
I got another quick one.
Go ahead, Spencer.
So you mentioned that Python's open source. Is generally the IDEs and libraries, are they generally free? Because like I'm used to MATLAB, I'm pretty good at it, but if I want MATLAB, I've got to pay $4,000 for a license.
MATLAB. Yeah, MATLAB's really good if you're at a university.
Yeah, exactly. Now I got nothing.
There are the IDE I just showed you called PyCharm. This is a commercial product that you'd have to pay for. However, the version I have is called a community version. And a lot of the, most of the IDEs, I mean, these companies that produce these integrated development environments, they're not like, oh, let's do this because we're nice. No, they're out for making money. But they will provide community versions. So the community version that I'm running is probably not as robust as the commercial version. What I mean by robust, there's some features that it just doesn't have. That is not a big deal. I've not bumped up against the limits of using this particular IDE. I like it. I'm not. So Microsoft has one. Visual Studio. There's a Visual Studio for Python. I'm just trying to think of the other vendors. I don't know them all, so bear with me. I use PyCharm, which is done by a company called Jet. It's called Jet. Sorry, let me just see. JetBrains. It's called JetBrains.
The link is already there, but I don't see the community edition.
Right, and so that this is a good one to start with. There are also online ones. So Google runs something called Google Colab, COLAB, and this is an online version. We already looked at Replit, Replit.com. We looked at Trinket, and there's lots more. Does that answer your question there, Spencer?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, good. And you try them out, see what works, see what matches the style that you like. And again, we'll send out a nice reference list for. No, don't admit that person. Did you see the name? So where was I? I'm sorry. So we'll share a good reference list for you to find these books and get yourself started. Some people learn better through a course or a tutorial, and so we'll include those in there.
Angie, do you have a question?
No, I end up losing connection. I'm sorry.
No, sorry, no problem
worries.
at all. I just see we have very diverse crowd here. So somebody do have the experience, somebody do not. And that's why we want to satisfy you all. Let's have 10 more minutes maximum if you have the introductory question or just orientation question. And then we will have John, we will ask John to help us with the kind of office hours piece. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is so much can be done. And what I would like to see here, some more demonstration, including code wars or whatever you feel right to show. John, how does this sound?
That sounds fine. What I could do is show off my little program. That might be a thing we could do. Okay. So Yuan-Wan's asking, if you wanted to learn Python, what would open up for you? Well, if you learn Python, you can get a job as a Python developer. They're in very high demand. You don't have to be a perfect expert, but if you get familiar enough with it, people will train you. And so there are some really good job paths learning Python. Most prevalent is learning data analysis. So taking some data, and it could be a spreadsheet, It could be a large, it could be a large spreadsheet, and being able to manipulate it in Python. So consider, let's talk about Excel for a minute, right? You could get a spreadsheet in Excel, and Excel allows you to sort the columns or the rows, and it will allow you to do things for all the data there's tools. But you have to learn how to use those tools. Well, you can do the same thing in Python, but it's more powerful because maybe you wanted to, maybe you have 1 million records in your data set, and there's some condition that you're looking for. So I've played with a used car. I found a used car data set and played with it. And so maybe I'm not interested in imported cars and only wanted to look at domestic cars. Well, I could really refine that that data set to limit to what I'm looking for. And maybe I'm only looking for domestic cars that have 4 doors. And depending on the data, I can filter really simply with a command or 2 to get to that. And then we could do analysis on it. We could find out the standard deviation or mean or statistical work on it. We could do we could write a report that lists all the cars in a particular format. There's a whole lot we can do. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. People get into data mining and looking at trends in the data, and there's a whole world of data analysis that's enabled by learning Python and learning pandas or other libraries that are similar. And
so that we will have the data analytics bootcamp coming. That's where the Python will be totally applicable. And as you can think about it, data analysis is applicable to any industry. So one career path is just to be the Python developer and do coding, right? In this case, you're a developer, you develop the specific programming functions and such. Another career path would be just to use Python to accomplish something for your job-specific functions.
You could use it to write games.
Right. I saw so many industry professionals not related to computers at all. So they were seeking how to simplify their boring stuff. And this actually got them into the book, How to Automate the Boring Stuff. And they started to learn Python little by little. And guess what? Most of them switched to be a developer because it's an exciting world, new world. But quite a lot of them just got improvements in work, and they were hired as effectively doing their work, comparing chemical ingredients, or just data analytics is one of those. In mechanical engineering, there are a lot of applications for Python as well. So we can talk a little bit about career paths, but I just want to be mindful about, do we want to do more coding or we want to serve more questions?
More coding.
More coding.
More coding.
Coding is fun, yes. You start to see pattern behind it. And that's where actually, that's how you learn. First you read it, you learn to read it, to recognize the pattern, then you start to do things. For my Newburgh tribe, for my Newburgh fellow, I shall mention Girls Who Code program we're running at the Newburgh Free Library. So I have girls 9 to 14 years old, and they learned Python really well, and they did, all of them did the chatbots. It's always interesting to see the creativity sparkling there. They all have their own use cases, where to apply it, what jokes to tell, or what stories or fun fact or quizzes and such. But it was fantastic. Actually 2 weeks and girls are doing this just brilliantly. If girls can do it, you can do it.
Right, right.
John, you ready?
I am, yeah, sure. So, hold on, let's...
While John is getting ready, I will mention one more resource. here. And why we're doing this, why we're mentioning all these resources. You know, technology is such an industry where people are helping each other. Otherwise, they wouldn't be successful. So saying that they create fun, collaborative, entertaining way to learn together. And that simplifies their learning because you don't need to do it alone. Today we're giving the introductory class, but we hope you will stick with us and we will have more coding clubs and coding words or coding exercises together. And little by little, you will find yourself engaged in this. Codewars.com is another cool platform. Yes, you can get your dojo belts doing specific challenges while learning.
We could look at some beginning code wars. Hold on one second. I'm just pulling this up, so bear with me.
Absolutely. Code Wars, actually the cool platform I would highly recommend to those of you who are already doing some coding. They have specific challenges for each language. We do like Python, as we said, and the purpose for today is Python. But there are also similar challenges for JavaScript or other languages if needed. So those of you who know some basics of other languages, Python would be so easy for you to learn. The only indentation is different. Everything else is very similar, very human oriented.
Yeah. All right, so let's just take a look at a problem. This is, a simple problem. However, so we're looking at Code Wars. Code Wars is a website that provides basically problems to solve programmatically, and it's everything from very beginner to pretty advanced, and they.
Oh, computer froze.
Yeah, maybe connectivity issues. Meanwhile, I will put the link into the chat. We will see when he will get back. Yes,
basically,
welcome back.
One shot at that. So did I share? I am sharing. So you see this. So here's a kata called create a function that takes an integer as an argument and returns even for even numbers or odd for odd numbers. This is something that we may want to do. So let's try it. So let's before we start writing out a bunch of code, let's do this. What am I doing? I'm gonna do this. This makes a comment. So what is it we want to do? So if we're given a number, if I pass in a number, we want to check to see if it's even or odd. Now there are some functions that we should talk about. One is called, obviously, there's plus. Everyone can see this, yeah? Should I make it bigger? There's plus.
Good.
There's minus. There's times, and there's divided by. And you understand how that would work. If I put in a number on one side, if I give it I could say print 1 plus 2. We actually saw that. We can do minus 1 minus 2. We get a negative number. 1 times 2, 1 divided by 2, right? There's another function called modulo. and it's used a percent sign. And basically, this will return the remainder of a division.
So as
if
we can see, Python is really good for mathematics.
It's really good for mathematics. So if I wanted to do, if I did 4 modulo 7, I would end up with 3, because 4 goes into 7 once and gives a remainder of 3. Now, if we wanted to do the pseudocode, so let's just write out the pseudocode here. We're going to take the number, take the given number, and if it divides by 2, actually, let me write this differently. Let me just do it this way. If it divides by 2 evenly, which means without a remainder, that's even. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And pseudocode, John used this word. Is it?
It's pseudocode because this is not code that the computer's going to understand. This is code that we can understand.
Instructions for us. But now we want to apply the right syntax to this code, right?
Yeah. So what's going on here is that there's this def command is a keyword that says what follows is a function. We give the function a name, even underscore or underscore odd, and then we pass in. Then we say it needs a parameter, and so the parameter is called the number. Number is a variable. So ultimately, if I did something like this. If I did, print even or odd, and I pass in a number, I'm going to get a result. And the result is after it runs through whatever we write under this function. Okay? So does anyone have an idea about how I should start? And I'm guessing no. Like, no.
No.
But so we want to take the given number, and the number is called number, and we want to see if it divides by 2 evenly. So if number.
And number, where are we getting the number? From input, from user?
Yeah, if you see on line 10, we have an example of this, print even or odd 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. So whatever we put here is going to be replaced with is going to be stored in the variable number.
Mm.
Okay, so here on line 8, I'm saying if number, and then what? I could say number modulo 2. Now, if is, we're going to end up with a Boolean value. It's either going to be true or it's going to be false. So if number modulo 2 is equal to, and equals, if we have just equals like that, that's an assignment. In other words, what's on the right gets plopped into the variable on the left. So it could be like something like this. I'm just going to create a variable called Fred, and I equal that, and I make number. Fred and number become the same value. That's all that's going on here.
Oh, so, Fred equals 2 means the Fred is assigned the value of 2.
Yeah, and so what I could do then, if I did print Fred, I would get the value 2.
But okay. In our case, we want to compare, so we're checking if it's really equals. So for this purpose, we need double.
So we use double equals. So if I say, if number modulo 2 is equal to 0, it means that the number gets divided evenly, right? So then I can go return, and return is a keyword. You can see that because it's purple. And all it's doing is it's whatever's calling here. So on line 12, I have print even or odd. this is going to return either true or false. I can return, bear with me. I'm just going to, so down below, there's some tests. Oh, and I'm going to return even, like that. Now, because I have this if, and notice that the return under the if is indented.
Automatically.
Yeah, it happens automatically, and that's because of the interface. Well, this I don't need.
Thank you, Cloud ID as well. Trinket will do it for you too.
Yes. Okay, so then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, if it doesn't, so that's the else, and as soon as I hit enter, it's indented. I'm going to return odd. So let's try it.
How do we try it?
So at the bottom, it says test. And when we do test, it runs, you see it says this area here, it says sample tests. And it actually goes through and it says, and it tries a bunch of things. So here's even odd passing in 2. That should come out even. This one should come out odd. This one should come out even. This one should, you understand how these work. They just give you a bunch of values and how they should come out. I use these, this part here, the 3 quotes, and this is for 1-1. These 3 quotes just give me this is all comment. So the interpreter is not going to read these. So
it's for human eye only, right?
Human eye only, right. Okay, so let's give it a test. And look, we passed all the tests.
Yay, we did it.
And you see here, this piece here, log, it says odd, because I said print even or odd, and I passed in this function, and I did my own little test. That's what this is. But it went through 11 tests. We can expand it, and we can see each test passed. Now, this, it looks like, what I want you to get is that it really is not complicated. All we did was we just thought about it first. How are we solving the problem?
We did pseudocode. It helps, always helps.
I wrote some pseudocode. What is it we're going to do? And then I translated it to the actual code. So Angie's asking, how do we know what to code in Python? This is, starting with Code Wars, that's a great way to start.
For reading books or taking tutorials, you need to learn specific functions, like 10 functions or 10 commands for the beginning to start with, and then the fun will begin.
I'm just opening up. Sorry, I'm just opening up the book, Automate the Boring Stuff, and there's a little project here, and it says multi-clipboard. It says, say you have the boring, hey, quiet down. Say you have the boring task of filling out many forms in a web page or software with several text fields. The clipboard saves you from typing the same text over and over again. So this project would be how to do it. Daisy, come here, come on, come on, come on, come on. What a good dog, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to hold her because then she won't make noise. Okay, so that's the quick answer. Like there's lots and lots of projects out there that you can try. I play with Code Wars because you'll get simple problems that you can solve. I'm a little further along myself. I think I'm a 5. No, I'm a 6. It says on the upper right hand corner, I'm a 6 kata person, as opposed to, we just did an 8 level. I'm up to 6, so I'm a little better. But regardless, the idea is that there's all these different ways. There's lots and lots of problems. So just to finish this little thing, so we've done our test to see, I think we've got a good idea here. And now if I click on attempt, it'll go through much more. So, you know, you can see it passed in a whole bunch of other numbers, and all because it's all green, I think we got the right answer. We passed all the tests. Aren't we cool?
Thank you,
And now I
John.
submit it.
And submitting, you will get what?
You get a sort of a mark on your record.
Certain level. Yay.
Yeah. You know, if you solve enough 8 KYUs, you automatically move up to 7, and then you move up to 6, and then you move up to 5, etc. I'm right on the edge of 5. Yeah, I agree. One says it's better than video games. I think so. I think it's a lot more fun and a lot more interesting.
Thank you, John. I think time for the class is over, and we have to be mindful about this. So, a couple more questions, or shall I stop recording and allow you to socialize?
So again, we will send out a list of resources. I do suggest that you at least try it out. You know, go look at Automate the Boring Stuff and go through the first few chapters, work on it in Trinket or Replit, and see, you know, does it call to you? And it might. If you like doing puzzles, coding is great for this. If you like to play with math, Python is awesome to play with math. My nephew's here. He's right over there, and he's saying he just graduated with a math degree. He loves Python because of that math piece.
Am I sharing the right screen too?
Hold on, let me just see. Yes. Put interactive Python anywhere on the web.
Yep. And this is the project one of my students did. But if you see, there are plenty of featured examples which you can learn from. Each time when you create your own account, you sign up, log in and such, then you would be able to remix it. Remix it means you can own it and spoil it and do whatever you want with this. But the main thing, you can see the guts, what's here. So just this environment called IDE itself, and this environment is so cool.
And the other thing is that any code that you write is yours, and if you want to share it with other people, you can. But most people share their code, so you know that there's just a lot you can do.
Saying that, thank you for your time.
It's really great that you joined us. Thank you for spending the time with us. Hello, Renner. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much.
We're actually just ending, just so you know. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry.
But we still can accommodate a couple questions if needed. Saying that, let me first thing first, let me once again to wrap it with the thank you to Newburgh Free Library to making it possible. I will stop recording now, and I hope to see you around